Good evening, everybody. This is a very important night on the House floor. House Republicans tonight stood with the overwhelming majority of Americans who demand secure elections. Standing with me are some of the champions of this cause in the House and some of the leaders outside our chamber who've been working on this issue to ensure this integrity for quite some time. And this is a big achievement tonight. By voting for the Save America Act, House Republicans did exactly what the American people sent us here to do. It's promises made, promises kept. Ensuring the integrity of elections is an essential issue. It's essential to maintaining our constitutional republic, and everybody in this country seems to understand and agree to that. This is about a 90-10 issue in the polling, because all that we've done tonight in this simple piece of legislation is apply common sense. All this Save America Act does is it enhances the SAVE Act, which you've already passed twice before, which says that you have to have proof of citizenship before you register to vote in federal elections. The law already provides for that, but we need to ensure that it's enforced. And the second part of it, what we added tonight and what is part of the Save America Act is the second piece, the very common sense requirement that you have a photo ID if you're going to vote. So that's it. That's what the bill does. Proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote. Everyone in the country understands the necessity of that, understands how simple it is and how important it is. And the only people that oppose it are people who want to cheat our system, who want to participate in our elections illegally, unlawfully. And that's not fair to the American people and the citizens of this country. And so we had only one House Democrat participate with us tonight. This has become a bitter partisan fight, and it's madness to us. We can't quite understand what the rationale is for opposing a free and fair election. But they're going to have to explain this to the people. They're going to have a hard time doing that. Now, this bill, having passed the House, will now go to the Senate. And we are encouraging all of our Senate Republican colleagues who believe in this just as we do to try to get this thing through the system, to pass it there. And we're hoping that some Democrats in the Senate will come to their senses and do the right thing for the people. Otherwise, they got a lot of explaining to do, as we say down in the South. This is something that is overdue. It's something that's common sense. It's something that comports with what the American people want. And there's really just one question that would linger over all this now. Will Senate Democrats continue to cater to their extreme left-wing base, or are they going to finally join the overwhelming majority of Americans on this common sense reform? But I'll tell you this, once again, Republicans have demonstrated that we are the party of common sense. We are the party that's delivering exactly what the American people sent us here to do, and we will continue that. Got a lot of champions that you can hear from here shortly before we take a few questions, and I'm going to yield first to Chairman Bryan Steil, who has worked really hard on this issue. Where is he at?
Right behind you, Mr.
Thank you,
Speaker.
sir.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. What an exciting day to have passed the Save America Act, moving forward two absolutely essential and important topics in election integrity. Making sure that it's only U.S. citizens who are voting in U.S. elections by ensuring that there is proof of citizenship at the time of registration. The other topic being photo identification. And as you watch the left push back against this, you realize how ridiculous their argument is. We were having a debate at committee on the topic of photo identification. I flew home to Wisconsin, went, grabbed a six-pack of beer. The clerk recognized me, said, "Hey, Bryan, can I see your ID?" Said, "Sure." I opened up my wallet, handed my wallet, he checked it. He allowed me to buy a six-pack of beer. I just think it's absolutely nuts that we protect our beer more than our ballots in jurisdictions across this country. The legislation today is a meaningful and real step forward in election integrity to make sure that it's only American citizens who are voting and that the people are who they say they are who come to the polls. So I appreciate the work of the leadership, our outside friends who are with us today, and it's my great pleasure to now yield to the author of the bill, my good friend, Chip Roy.
Well, only a man from Wisconsin to be in here talking about protecting his beer, right? It's like, look, and I'm for that, by the way. To be on the record, I'm for protecting your beer. Look, it is an honor to be here. I just think this is a great reflection of the team that is the Republican conference in the House and what we're doing to work together to deliver for the American people. They sent us here to do what we said we would do. It's a pretty simple task. The president talks about common sense. This piece of legislation is simple common sense. There's a reason that it is polling, at astronomical levels, no matter which party you're in, no matter what race or background you have, whether you're urban or rural, whether you're black or white, Hispanic, whether you're male or female, it's polling at 80, 85, 90% across the country. It's because it's common sense. The American people want a sovereign nation. They understand that voter ID is common sense to vote. They want only American citizens to vote in American elections, and this legislation does that. And the Save America Act is now headed to the Senate. And we certainly hope that the Senate will take it up in good faith, put it on the floor, and have a robust debate. Make the greatest deliberative body a great deliberative body again. Go to the floor of the Senate and take this up. I want to see people who want to oppose it go to the floor of the Senate and try to explain to the American people why they wouldn't support this common sense legislation. I want to thank the Speaker. I want to thank Chairman Steil. I want to thank all of the leadership team here, but I want to give a special shout out and thanks to the groups and all of my friends here, but particularly Cleta Mitchell, without whom we wouldn't have been able to get this drafted in the first place and get this bill across the finish line here in the House. So with all of that, I appreciate it, and I'll turn it over to our great leader, Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Chip. I appreciate your leadership and all the people up here, and especially those friends from the outside world that have been focusing on this for a long time. The House of Representatives, led by Republicans, came together tonight and said, we will protect the sanctity of your vote. And it's so important. You know, you think about the military veteran who risked his life overseas to defend our freedoms. He comes back home and his vote will be stolen if somebody's able to vote illegally. And it happens. I come from a state where our elections commissioner was sent to federal prison. We all know it goes on, and how can you protect it? And then when you listen to the arguments by the Democrats, it was some of the most embarrassing, hypocritical debate you could hear. They're talking about voter suppression. Well, let me tell you, and it's been brought up. Try getting on an airplane and flying home tonight without showing a picture ID. Try going into a bar without showing a picture ID. Try getting into the Democrat National Convention without showing an ID. They required it. The same Democrats that are saying things like Jim Crow said you have to have an ID to get into their own convention because they know it's common sense. If you want to have a secure operation in anything, and elections are the most important franchise we have in America to protect democracy. And so, yes, we had a really important vote. Great to see one Democrat. Really perplexing why every other Democrat wanted to support voter fraud. That's really what you're supporting if you voted no tonight. You're saying you're okay with voter fraud. And that's a disgrace. Look at states that have done this. Georgia, they said all those same things, by the way, in the state of Georgia, that passed a voter ID requirement. And what happened in the next election after? You had actually higher voter participation. And in one part, I think it was because of the voter ID law, because then people had a higher confidence in their vote counting, because they knew it was harder for somebody to cheat and steal because of the voter ID requirement. So you will increase confidence amongst legal voters with this provision. And that's why it's so important that the Senate take this up and find a way to get it to President Trump's desk. President Trump wants this bill on his desk so he can sign it into law and give even stronger protections to all Americans, over 80%, who strongly want the protection of the sanctity of their vote. And the man who helped us get the votes for this bill, our whip, Tom Emmer.
American elections are for American citizens only. That's not controversial. That's just common sense. And that's why our House Republican team passed Congressman Chip Roy's Save America Act today. More than 70 other countries already require a photo ID to vote in their elections. It's also an issue that 83% of Americans support the photo ID requirement in this bill, with even proof of citizenship, including 71% of Democrats. In other words, today's vote should have been a no-brainer for our colleagues across the aisle. Yet House Democrats oppose this common sense piece of legislation. And for what? Mr. Speaker, you were saying it's hard for us to understand. It's not hard. I think it's pretty easy, actually, because identification requirements are now suddenly racist or sexist? No. No, if that's the case, House Democrats need to reevaluate how they go through the security line at the airport, like Leader Scalise just talked about, how they buy cold medicine or rent books at public libraries. Their argument is absurd because it's a lie. Quite simple. This isn't about race or gender for them. This is about wanting to make sure that illegal aliens can vote for Democrats in future elections. Just ask my governor, Tim Walz, who refuses to hand over Minnesota's voter rolls to the Department of Justice. I wonder what you're hiding. We need election integrity now more than ever. And I want to thank Congressman Chip Roy. I want to thank our friend, the chairman, Bryan Steil, the speaker, the leader, all these people here, our conference chair, who will light it up here in a second. And I urge our Republican Senate colleagues, just like my colleagues up here, please take up the Save America Act immediately. Let's get this common sense piece of legislation to President Trump's desk as if our democracy depends on it, because it does. And with that, Chair McClain.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Chip, for putting this piece of legislation on the floor, and thank you, Bryan, and most of all, thank you to our coalition partners here. Today, House Republicans stood up for the only people that should decide American elections. Anybody want to guess who that is? Americans, right? The radical left wants you to believe voter ID is extreme, right? Give me a break. Right? Voter ID is extreme. You need an ID to open a bank account. Gee, that's pretty extreme. You need an ID to board a plane. My goodness gracious, that's extreme. You need an ID to buy a beer, even in Wisconsin, right? My goodness, that is so extreme, Bryan. I can't believe it. You even need ID to pick up certain cold medicines. So let's get this straight. Buying a six-pack of beer or cold medicine requires more security than choosing the leader of the free world? You need to ask your Democrat colleagues, like, what's your rationale? Ask them to connect the dots for you on that one. It's just not, it's backwards, it's absurd, and it's hilarious. And why? Because the Democrats know it's hilarious because they want voter fraud. They want fraud. They advocate for fraud. Look at what they're doing in Minnesota. Just have Mr. Emmer talk about that. They love fraud. God forbid if we take a look at fraud. And you know what's even more jaw-dropping? Having Democrats like Senator Ossoff, who opposes this bill. I mean, he's out there fighting. This is just terrible, right, Senator? Requiring voter ID to vote. Well, hear me on this. Just hear me out. But to get into his town hall, you had to have a voter ID. What is he trying to suppress the vote for people to get into his own town hall? What a contradiction. It's laughable. It's absurd. It's embarrassing. But why? Because it's safer. Of course it's safer, Senator. So why wouldn't you want the same standard for the people who vote? Different standards for you. Just interesting, right? But the American people can see right through that. They recognize common sense when they hear it, and they know that protecting the integrity of our elections is not extreme. It's absolutely essential. For years, Democrats have blurred the lines at our borders, downplayed concerns about election security, and dismissed the voices of everyday Americans who simply want fair and honest elections. Isn't that terrible? They've tried to shame and silence anyone who dares to ask a basic question about ensuring the fact that only Americans can vote. Well, let me share with you. With Chip Roy, Bryan Steil, and this coalition team behind me, that's not going to happen on our watch. The Save America Act is not complicated. It's really not. It's not radical. It's not even controversial. Actually, it's not controversial to anyone who's operating in reality. It's crystal clear. If you want to vote in American elections, all you got to do is prove that you're an American, period. No loopholes, no games, no excuses. Voting is just another transaction. It is sacred. It's not. just another transaction. It's sacred and it is the foundation of our republic. It's the voice of the people and the voice that belongs to the citizens. It does not belong to non-citizens. It does not belong to foreign nationals, and it does not belong to anyone who is here illegally. So again, thank you for all of your hard work on this. And with that, Mr. Speaker?
Yeah, we'll take a few questions. Before I do that, I just wanted to say there's a biblical admonition to give honor where honor's due. A lot of people worked really hard on this, and this was a years-long effort. And I was, Chip and I were discussing earlier today how this began when we first filed the SAVE Act. I remember we were out on the steps in the last Congress. Cleta Mitchell was there, and Ken Cuccinelli, Jenny Beth Martin, and Tea Party Patriots. All of our friends are there, many here with us tonight. They were out on the steps advocating for this. And when we presented it, we presented it as a matter of common sense, and the American people agreed with that. And in recent days, you've had people like Scott Pressler up here who's just been online just hammering this thing over and over and making sure that people are aware of this. And it really took all that effort from the outside to here inside the building to make this happen. And it's, again, delivering on our promises. So a couple questions about this. We'll be happy to do it. Yeah, yes, sir.
Question on this. What assurances have you gotten from who's going to come up to the Senate? Have you talked about the talk from Filibuster? And while I have you, DHS is about to shut down in 2 days. Have you heard any progress on that?
Yeah, so I stay in close contact with Leader Thune, and we met yesterday, actually, and talked about this. I told him that it would be coming over. We were certain to pass it, and we would send it, and hopefully we'd get a few Democrats. We got one, okay? So it's a bipartisan bill. It's going to the Senate, and I think Leader Thune is committed. I mean, I know he is to getting this to the floor, but we want to get it not just to the floor, but to the president's desk. We need to get this signed into law. It's really important for all the reasons stated here. We have a custom between us. He doesn't tell me how to run the House. I don't tell him how to run the Senate. But I trust that he is committed to it, and they're trying to figure that out, figure out the right path. And I think talking filibuster is part of that discussion, and we'll see how it shakes out. So I would hope that there'd be some sensible Democrats there that would recognize, as one did here tonight, that this is a good policy and a good thing, and it's right. It shouldn't be a partisan issue. This is anybody who's for free and fair elections, for the integrity of our system, should be on board with this, and hopefully they could get 60 votes over there. We'll see how it happens. With regard to the Homeland Security, there is good faith negotiations ongoing right now. I was at the White House 90 minutes ago with the president talking about that very thing. The White House is sending over a few terms. I don't know if you call it a counter offer, but they're in negotiations with Senate Democrats, and we're very hopeful that that can be worked out. They are going to vote on the House Homeland Security Appropriations Bill that we passed here, by the way, with bipartisan votes. They're going to vote on that tomorrow. If they do not have 60 votes to pass it, I think by unanimous consent, they could move into a short-term CR. We don't know yet how that's going to shake out, but I did tell the House Republicans, I put everybody on notice that I would anticipate votes on Friday. I certainly hope that's true, because shutting down the government right now, if the Democrats force a government shutdown, it will be a disaster for the country. Remember what's at stake here. The Department of Homeland Security covers the agencies that keep Americans safe. You're talking about the Coast Guard, you're talking about FEMA, Secret Service, TSA. No one wants flight delays. We don't need another Democrat shutdown. They already gave us the longest one in history last fall, and we've had enough of that. So let's hope cooler heads prevail and we get this done, and we do not have to shut the government down. Yes, ma'am.
Last question. During the 43-day shutdown, you made the decision to not have the House in for almost the entirety of that. If DHS shuts down, do you plan to keep the recess next week? Do you plan to keep the House out? Do you plan to bring them back for you? How are you planning to handle it?
Well, I'm not going to forecast what will happen because we don't know. The scenario I just painted for you is the one I expect. No deal yet, but I mean, I do believe that at least the White House is operating in good faith, and I can testify to that because I was just with the group and the president himself. We'll see how the Democrats receive that. This would be different than the full government shutdown for 43 days. And we will do whatever is necessary. Republicans will do whatever is necessary to get the government open. If it looks like we have an opportunity to do that, then I would press for it. If it's a short-term CR, that would cover next week. People have very important events in their districts, serving their constituents, doing that hard work. And that's always of high importance and high priority. So we'll have to make that decision depending on the circumstances as they develop, so stay tuned. Appreciate y'all being here so much. Thank you so much.
All right, just listening in there, Speaker Mike Johnson and other Republicans talking about this Save America Act as it's moving through the House, of course, talking about it, saying that they are important for voting registration, saying that people need a proof of citizenship to get registered and then a photo ID. Mike Johnson on social media saying it's simple, only Americans should decide American elections, and it does not have potentially legs in terms of what's going on in the Senate. So that just moving through the House, he noted it has already passed through the House multiple times. And we're also continuing to hear, as you heard from Speaker Mike Johnson, talking about that funding for Homeland Security, saying just within the last couple of hours, he was at the White House speaking with President Trump, the White House, the administration about what it will take, saying that potentially could have some votes tomorrow and then Friday for this, saying there's a counter offer, counter proposal of sorts, going to head to the Democrats' way to see if they can have a continuing resolution. He doesn't know if it's going to be a unanimous consent type of protocol in place, but he also mentioned that House members might expect votes on Friday, also noting that a partial government shutdown would, quote, be a disaster for America.